This week, we're going to do a final hurrah to Subaru's BRZ. You might be wondering where we are. We're at the base of the Blue Mountains. There's a little bit of a view out here, and that's back out towards Sydney, back out towards the western suburbs. And I'm going to take you in a minute on one of the best driving roads in the country, back up through these tight twists and bends, and that's what this car was made for. But before we do that, let's look at why this car over the last 9 years has been so good. It was released in 2012, debuted in, I think it was around 2009. And since then, this jointly developed project with Toyota has been an absolute classic. More 86s were sold, which is the Toyota version, but this BRZ, I think, looks a little bit nicer. I quite like the name BRZ. There are now 3 models of BRZ, with the BRZ TS being released through the model life of this little coupe. They're all powered by the same engine, which has got a rather modest 152 kilowatts and 212 newton meters. The automatics have slightly less for some strange reason. You can get a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed automatic. The engine itself sits very low in the compartment, and I particularly like these red covers, though there is room in there for a little turbo. The chassis is nice and tight with a little bit of extra bracing, but there's room for even more bracing if you want it. Lighting all round is LED with this smart combination that I think looks particularly sexy. In fact, the whole front of the car looks sexy. And these bonnet humps, you can see from the inside, that give it a Jaguar-esque type feel, as well as the deep ruts in the roof. There's 17-inch wheels on the bottom 2 models and 18-inch on the top models. And this is a 2+2, so there is room in the back, but it's snug. I wouldn't bother if I were you. The rear end, also LED lights. There's a bit of a hump to give you a little bit of extra space in the boot. And these twin exhausts I think look sensational. That's the rear fog light and reversing light. There's also a reversing camera and a little button underneath to unlock the boot. And for some obscure reason they've decided to hide the boot manual lock just there, just in case the electric lock fails. Inside there's a full-size spare wheel, and the seats do go down, but they're not split. There's more than enough room in that boot for a weekend away. You might think that with the spare tyre in the boot coming up as far as it does, that interferes with your space. But look, there's a back seat that's never going to be used for humans. Put your soft overnight bags in that. Inside, BRZ remains little changed from when it first started 9 years ago. This is the new generation of sound system, and it actually sounds pretty good. It is brilliant. The dashboard is a simple 3 dials. There's a digital speedo in the middle, some digital information on the right hand side for distance and so forth. This car is only 347 kilometers old. Cruise control is a small lever, and the rest are just fairly simple buttons and dials. Air conditioning is dual zone, and there's a neat row of toggles below. And this is your stop and start button. We do have drive modes after a fashion and some seat heating, and I particularly love the red stitching and this Alcantara upholstery. But above all, just in case you've forgotten, there's BRZ emblazoned across the seats. I like that there's cup holders and a decent place to put some trinkets, plus a place for a bottle holder, which in a car this size is really surprising. You can do all this Apple CarPlay stuff by voice, but last night I went in and planned a trip to where I was picking the car up. Best thing is, all I have to do when I want it is just go into my phone and I can look up all my previous destinations. There is navigation in the car, but CarPlay has made it so easy. I think the true joy of this setup is the fact that McPherson strunts at the front and wishbones at the back give this a seat of your pants experience. And the gear changes are absolutely delightful. Now, funnily enough, the fuel consumption in the 6-speed manual is more than the fuel consumption in the 6-speed automatic. Of course, you've got all your little luxuries like power windows, power steering. But, and this is the really interesting thing, there is absolutely no safety gear. This car doesn't have eyesight in it. And eyesight is Subaru's suite of safety gear. And in fact, a tight bend, and in fact, it doesn't have autonomous emergency braking or any of the other things. It doesn't have active cruise control. It does have cruise control, but it's not active. But we'll look at that on the freeway. Gosh, this really gets you involved in every single corner. Oh God, this is brilliant. We're climbing now directly up the side of the mountain. So there's some switchbacks and gentle curves, and it's rewarding, it's engaging, and incredibly sharp. The steering, you feel, is alive, but you can feel everything that's happening through the seat of your pants. And the little engine has this pleasing little burbly gargle. The clutch is so light. You can see how we're just changing direction so easily. But the engine is a screamer. On the highway, as you'll see, we get up to around 3,000 and we stay there at 110. Unlike the rest of the Subarus, BRZ is a rear-wheel drive. And that means that the tail does get a little bit lively. Oh dear, we're behind an Outback doing 40. There's always one, isn't there? So I showed you some tight, twisting bends and how beautiful this sticks to the road. Now this is a graceful, sweeping bend. Admittedly, the speed limit is fairly low, but it just brings a smile to your face. Look at this. Oh God, this is fabulous. Just fabulous. The seats are incredibly supportive. They're firm, absolutely firm, but they're very supportive. We've reached the bottom of the mountains now, and we're about to go across the bridge, across the Nepean River. Oh, ears are popped. And then we'll be up to 110. Here we go, 110. Now, at 110, I'm doing 3,000 RPM. And 3,000 RPM it's quite a lot. I'm just going to activate my cruise control, and now my manual cruise control is set. So we're buzzing along quite nicely on the highway. The fuel consumption figures, as I said, would get you 700 kilometers maybe, perhaps 800 kilometers out of a tank, depending on how frugal you were. It's only a small tank, 50 liters, but this may be a track car, but above all, it's a fun car. And I only hope they haven't ruined it with the new one. I only hope that the new one is as nimble and as fun as this is. It's got some extra power, an extra 20 odd kilowatts, and some extra torque as well. I'll be sorry to see this go. But I'll be just as glad to see the new model. When the new model is released, we'll do a video. And Until then, see you later. That's it this week. The final hurrah for Subaru's BRZ. It's a stunning little coupe that deserves every accolade it's gotten. As always, if you've liked the film, hit like, leave a comment, but above all, there to subscribe.